Hello, Go lovers. Welcome to this comprehensive course on mastering API development in Go with test-driven development approach, TDD. Your API is going to have the ability to register, the ability to log in. We are going to have authentication. We are going to have the ability to create and view your post. All these things are going to be done using test-driven approach. Test-driven development is basically a way for you to visualize your end product. That is how I think about TDD. TDD enables me to slow down, think about what I intend to do, the results that I am expecting from my code to produce. So you are basically thinking in terms of input and output. Let me demo the program that we will be creating. In the demo, let's start by, so already I have Docker running, Docker Compose. So I can do Docker PS for you to see that. Basically, we have Postgres running. And then I have the tables created in the database. I'm going to go ahead and do make test. Everything passed. We can do go run, or we do make run. That we have the program running. Can bring up Postman. So we just created an account. Use the same information to log in. We have JWT. This is the new JWT. Then I can try to create a post. Send, of course, invalid token. Put the right token, and of course, this is the payload. We have created a post. Put the right token, and we can see the post that we recently created. This is fantastic. Now, it is time for us to build this from scratch using test-driven development. That is, we are going to write the test first, then we write the code to make the test pass. Gradually, we are going to have a complete program by the end of this video. Now, before we start, please, I want to appeal to you that if you're watching this video, if you are new to this channel, this is what I do. I post things like this, please, you can hit the subscribe button, and to support the channel, turn on the notification, and that's it. All right, time to rock and roll. This is my IDE. I'm going to have this part where you see all the files. We're going to have terminal down here, and of course, the middle is where we write our code. At the moment, I have an empty directory. Nothing is there. So I'm going to go ahead and do go mod init. I'll put my GitHub. And this created a go mod for us. And I'm going to do touch makefile. This is our makefile. Let's add the target for run. Go run. Something like this. I need to add another one for test. This one, we need to add some flags. Go flags. Basically count. Count will be equal to 1. This is not that important. If you don't have make on your system, just run the test manually. In short, I'm going to show you how to do that. We want to see cover, and in case of any race condition, we want to see all that. Okay, so with this, we are able to type make test. It's nothing to test. All right, we can do make run, nothing to run. So let's make sure these tests are good. So I'll type I'll type make dir, which is creating the folder, or we can right click here directly and create folders. cmd/API, and I can create a main.go in there. For now, we are going to just log something to the screen. Hello world. Now we can come here and type make run. We see our hello world. Make test, nothing to test, but as you can see, we no longer have any error. And this is the idea. This is the fundamental of test-driven development. you set something up and then you do something else to make it pass. It is important for you to see the errors and you continue changing the code until you no longer have any errors to fix. All right. So where do we start from? I like to start from the database layer all the time. This is important because it helps me prepare for the front end. So I'm going to start from the database layer. The way we are going to structure our code is, here is going to be the command. We are going to have another folder here called pkg. In this pkg, make sure that this pkg is not under the cmd, so it's outside. And inside the pkg, I'm going to have a domain. And then in this domain, I'm going to have other files like data and all that. So let's create a file here called API. Don't mistake this API for the API like that. Route API is basically application programming interface that represent the contract of the application. So we are going to say we're going to have a user which will be of type struct. We're going to have an ID of the type int64. I'm going to have email, which is going to be a string, password, string, name, string. Then we go ahead and we have JSON, all of them JSON. All right, this looks good. Let's add a post struct as well. Since we have this one here, we can copy and paste it. We need title, copy and paste this one and just change it to title. What else? Body. And we need the time the article was created, which is going to be time.time. Great. Let's use this data to create the data as the data layer. So we are going to go ahead and create some contracts. But sometimes before you create a contract, you really don't know the data types and all that. I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes I want to start from the core and then I can convert them to contracts. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Instead of defining some interfaces here, I'm going to go ahead and create, let's create a store folder here. And then in this store, I'm going to have SQL store. The way I'm structuring the code, you don't have to do it exactly like this. I'm going to have Postgres because we are going to use Postgres. In here, let's create a user_test. We are going to have a CreateUser method. CreateUser is a way for us to create a new user account. So let me say test CreateUser is going to be this. As you can see, we are not importing anything. We haven't imported anything so far. We are using the standard library. Now, in order to create a user, let's say this is a user we want to create in the database. Let's say I have something like this. We're going to need the email of the user. I'm going to say test@test.com and password and name John Doe. Right. Then the next thing I want to do is to say this is the created user. Something like this error. Now we need access to the Postgres store itself. We don't have that yet, so it's okay. But let's just imagine how we think it should work. So I'm going to call something, let's say pstore.createUser. And then I will pass it this user object. Then I will check if error is not nil. We expect the error to be nil at this point. We can save theta here. I'm using theta because if this returns an error, then this is not going to be valid, and it makes sense to stop the testing here. After that, yeah, I can check for a few things. For example, if this dot id equal to 0, then we know that TerrorF want id not to be 0, but something like this, no problems. And so how do we fix this error? We can run make test. You see we have a lot of errors here, which is okay. First, let's try to create this. I'm going to say new Postgres store. And I don't know what it's going to take yet, but let's keep it that way. So I'm going to put another file here called Postgres. And in this Postgres file, we are going to define the type Postgres store of type struct. This is going to hold the access to database connection. And in order to solve this, fix this error, we need this here. This should return an instance of this. So we need the DB passed in, I guess. So we need this here. Of course, a little comment, create new instance of Postgres store. Something like this. Make test. Right? As you can see, we are changing the error all the time. Now we see that we need to pass some argument here. I'm going to pass nil for now. And this one is undefined. So let's create a user.go here. In this user.go, I'm going to add the method. Let's give it Q, Postgres store. This is the method we are looking for, CreateUser. The user itself is coming from domain. And of course, we return the newly created user or an error. Okay, at the moment, we can return name. Let's run the test one more time. We are still failing. We are still failing for a reason. So let's see why we are failing. Something is, if we don't want to fail, we can do test new tests. And this is going to fail with a different message, but not panic. You see now that it's saying that we test, right? We're still failing, all right. But in order not to fail, if you look at our test, we're not expecting any error here. So we can return, I can trick it. We can return this user that was passed in, and we can return name here. Just to make sure that the ID is not 0, we can set the ID to 1. Make test. And we have a successful test now. Everything looks good so far. But you and I know that this is not real, right? So let's try to break it. Let's add more check. We want to make sure that the user name, if the username is not equal to, this is what we have. Sorry, I always like to do what we have. It's not equal to what we got. Then I can say t.errorf expected q got q. So this is what we have, and this is what we got. Ideally, this is still going to pass because we are returning it, but something else I want to make sure that's happening here. Let's say old password. I want to do something here, really important. And I pass the old password here. So if the user, the returned user dot password equal to old password t.error or whatever that we want to do, password was not hashed. Okay, run the test. And now our error, you can see password was not hashed. So time to look at how to hash the password. We need to create another package here called common, and I can add a password underscore test. You see how we start from test. I'm going to say test password hash t. All right, so what do we want to test? Let's have a password here, or password, and the hashed, we're going to say password hash or hash password, however we want to call it. And I'm going to pass it the password. If error is not new, and I say I don't want to continue running the test if error is not new. So if the length of the hashed password is 0, then something is not right. I will say want hash got q, something like this. Then if the hashed password is still the same thing with the password, of course it was not hashed. Error f, password was not hashed, got, and I passed the hashed password that we claim to have received. Okay, of course this is going to fail because we don't have, we can run this from here. This is failing because we currently don't have this function, so we're going to create it now. Password. And in order to, let's go back here and copy the function signature. So basically we need to take a string and return a string. So plain text, and we're returning a string and an error. First we do this bcrypt.generate from password. Let's convert the plain text to bytes. Plain. Yeah, this is okay. Then we are going to do bcrypt dot default cost. We need to import bcrypt here. Golang.org, I think, /x/crypto/bcrypt, something like this, and then we can run go mod tidy to bring it in. It's been installed. Wait for IDE to reload. The default cost is here, so it's 10. I think that is enough for what we are doing. If this is not new, of course we return it. I'm just going to return the empty string and the error. Else, we convert this to string and return it. We can return new here. Time to run the test. Now our test is passing. Let's add another test to check password. So test function, test, check password, T. Right, we put the password, which is the plain password, the hash and the error. We hash the password. Basically, we are doing the same thing here. And then we do check password, which we don't have yet. We check the plain password against the hashed one. If error is not near, for sure, we know that the password verification failed. Got, let's say, Q. I just pass this like this. Because this is going to fail. Go back to this place and add function. Check password. We take what was it we have here? The plain and the hash. So plain text, hashed, test, string, and we're only returning error. I think we just return decrypt, something like this. Bytes, plain text. So if you click on it, you say this is the hash and this is the password. So we bring this one here first. This is the beauty of Go. You can check the code and see the documentation for yourself. All right, time to run the test again. Both tests are passing. But I'm going to right click and run with coverage, and let's see what we have. Something is not fully covered. We have 80% coverage. So how do we make this guy fail? Trust me, I have a secret for that. So I'm going to go back to this test. And then I will say, I'm going to say error. And hash password. What I'm going to do here is the trick. If I want, in order for us to cover this path, that means this code must return an error, right? You can try to mock it and do a whole lot, but there's something inside. Look at, if the password is greater than 72 characters, it's going to fail. So let's use that to get to 100% here quickly. So what I'm going to do is long pass make, I'm just going to make a slice of string and they make 73. And it's just going to be, I don't know, whatever the program can put there, I don't care. It's like, so I make, some bytes, all right, 73. Then I'm going to convert it to string here. Great. We don't need all this. We're going to say, and I can ignore this now. If error is near, we're just going to say t.errorf expected an error got me. So that should be it. Run the code again with coverage, and then you see we have 100% coverage for this. So we are done with password, hashing, and verification. Time to go back to the code. In the main, inside CMD API main, let's have a constant here. And then I'll paste the, let me paste the database connection string. This is a very long string that I don't want to type, so I just copied it over. Nothing special, but please, this is important. Do not put your database credentials in your code. The reason why I'm putting it here is because the more stuffs we add, the longer the video is going to be, and I don't want to be pulling in configuration management because we want to focus on doing TDD and building APIs for this video. If you want video on configuration management, please do let me know in the comment. All right, so we have this. The next thing, just really simple. We're going to say connect to DB. Connect to DB is going to take a driver, and which is a string. It's going to return this, an error. So we try to make a connection and see. The driver and that data source that we have up there. Some people may want to take the data source as well, but honestly, I don't care. It's just going to work. Then if error is not nil, we return nil and error. At this point, we want to also ping. This is you trying to test if your connection was successful or not. After that, DB and nil. Very simple. Yeah. Then in your main, I can just grab the connection to the database. And I say, since we are still testing, I can grab the error as well, and I just do driver here, Postgres. This is not going to work for now. If error is not me, log.fatal. This is what we are going to see. I'm just going to comment this out and let's run it. Make run. Unknown driver Postgres. Why? Because we need to import the Postgres driver here. So I can paste this. I need to now run go mod tidy. So we are bringing it from github/lib/pq. Now we have it. Make run again. And we are able to connect to the database. Now that we are connected to the database, what next? We need to use it. We just know we have a database connection. We are currently not using it, but it's fine. We are going to use it shortly. Just a minute. All right. So let's go back to where we're going back to the store. Look at our code. We are currently not storing anything in the database. So let's try to store something in the database and see, but we are going to do it via test. We are actually doing test-driven development. So why not? All right, let's continue going. If you are enjoying the video, please don't forget to subscribe. It's important for me. Thank you. Okay, so now if you look at the test we have on this package, it's going to pass, right? I think so. Yeah, it's currently passing. But the beauty of test-driven development is when you refactor your code and your test is no longer passing, you have to go and make the test pass. Sometimes you have to refactor the test and it's not your code is no longer working. You have to continue that loop. It's about refinement. So let's do it. Now I'm going to put constant here and then the SQL we are going to execute. I just paste it. So this is SQL create user, insert into the user table name, email, password, and then the 3 placeholders, and we are going to return the data that we need. All right, so we have the password hashed. We no longer need this here. We no longer need to add this manually, but time to say error. Remember we have this DB here, right? So this is what we are going to use to connect to the database. So I'm going to say q.get DB, we have query role. I'm using query role because of this data that I'm returning. This is a trick, not to do the query twice. Like I create the data, then I have to go and fetch it again. So it's really cool. That's why I love Postgres. So we put the SQL here, and we put all the data that we need. So name first, and user.email, user.password. Remember, we just hashed the password here, so this is correct. Now we need to scan. Scanning, basically this data that we are returning, we are putting it back into the user. So we can do scan.id. It's only the ID that have changed. So we could have as well just returned only the ID and scan the ID, and everything will still be fine. But I want to make sure that I have everything scanned in there. So in order to do that, you need to put an ampersand because you need to pass in a pointer, and then user.name, user.email, then user.password. This gives us the complete scan. If error is not nil for any reason, we are going to return nil. If only I can type nil. Or else we return the user and nil. Of course, our test is going to fail now. Boom, we have a panic. It's an invalid memory address or nil pointer. And this is coming because in the test, when you call p-store on this guy, this is going to call here. So this is what is failing. This DB is currently not set. So we need a way to set that DB. Look at here, the DB is nil. So q.db is like you are basically doing q.nil, which is going to be an error. So that is what is causing this error. Trust me, that is what it is. All right. So you see, this is where the error is coming from, and that's exactly what is causing is this q.nil that we are doing here. All right, so we need the store. We need a way to connect to the database from the test. So let's do that now. In order to connect to the database from here, we are going to do something very similar that we did in main, which is basically to set up our connection. So set up test. This file is going to be executed first. Const, we are going to put that Postgres connection here shortly. So I'm going to say Postgres data source name. Like I said, if we need to take all these configurations out into like an .env file and manage it from there, but please let's focus on the goal here, which is test-driven development. As you can see, we are focusing on the testing and then refining the code. So now that we have the test, each time you are running the test in a package, Go is going to try to look for a test main. So just like your main function here, for test, this is what you have, test main, and it take m, or if you like, you can name the variable anything you like, but it has to be this testing.m, right? And this is where we are going to do all the setup that we need for this package. So the first thing I'm going to do is the DB connection that we need. I'm going to just open the connection here directly. And then the Postgres data that we have up there. If we are unable to connect, I'm going to just exit the program here. If we want, we can make the other functions in main a little bit generic and bring it here to use it, but yeah, I don't really worry myself about that. We just try to ping again. If we are unable to ping the database, we exit as well. At this point, we are good. So let me create a sort of a package level variable here called testdb, which is going to be of type this. So now that our connection is successful, we're going to set testdb to this. So this gives us connection to the database. After this is now where we run the test by saying code is equal to m.run. This is what is going to run our test. Now, when the test has finished running, I want to close the database connection by doing this close. And if we are unable to close the database connection, I'm just going to do this as well. After we close the database connection, we exit cleanly, which is os.exit, and pass it the code that we return from the test. This is all we need to do, but I need to go here and bring this database connection. If you want, you can create a different database. Let's say instead of blog, it can be blog_test for your testing, but I think for me this is okay. So we go back to Postgres setup_test, and then we put this in here. Okay, we have this. Let's run the test again. Always run your test to see what you are missing. Unknown driver because we forgot to bring this one in here. So this is the setup test now, and then we import it. So we are in the SQL store inside Postgres setup_test.go, and I'm importing the Postgres SQL driver. So I'm going to run it one more time, and then we still have that same error message, that old error message, but we are about to fix it by taking this to where we getting this. So this is where we are creating the store and popping it in there. Now I'm trying to run it, and successfully our code works. It's interesting because we're actually going to see that data in our database, and this is going to be the next problem we have to solve. Select all from users. When the test was executed, the data is in the database for real, so delete from users, and then it's gone. But we know for sure that we are able to create data in our database, and the test is passing all of that. So this is really, really good. Okay, I'm going to run it with coverage, and let's see what we have. Now that I executed it with coverage, it's saying that that user is 80% covered. So how do we get it to be 90% or 100%? So we are unable to cover here because how do we force query raw to return an error? I think we can force it by changing this SQL. So I can go back to that test, and I will do something here called const old CreateUser old SQL create old. What is the name of the SQL actually that we have here? It's the same thing. I'm going to take it, put it here, and I'll say it's equal to this. It's not going to be const, it's going to be var. Then I just add old here. You know why I'm doing this thing. So we have this saved somewhere here, and we'll come here. This is what we are executing. I can come here now to do another test. Create user, but before that I'm going to change the SQL to something that is invalid, and we don't need this one actually, so we can set this like this. If error is nil, we just say error f expected error not to be nil for invalid SQL. Then for invalid create SQL. So after this, if everything is successful, we want to set this back to what it was. SQL is equal to this. So why do I have cannot assign? That means we need to change it from here to var. And I think everything should be good. Time to run the test. We run the test now. Okay, duplicate key. So this problem is because we have the data here in the database. We are going to fix that shortly. Let's run the test one more time. Run with coverage. Good. We have 100% coverage on this function. It is about time we solve this problem. I think we need like contract on how to delete posts. So when we create a user, we also want to delete the user. So I'm going to take this as a contract and then create an interface. I'm doing all that. All right. In the domain section, so let me go to tools or run coverage, no coverage data to make it clean, right? If you go to domain, I want to create a file called contract, which are interfaces we're going to have. So I'm going to say type store interface. We have, let's go copy and paste this one. This is one. So we are going to have a create user. The user is already here. And so this is one. Already we can see that Postgres has implemented it. So this is fantastic. We need another one called delete user by ID, which is going to be, ID is going to be int64. This doesn't return the user, it returns an error. At the moment, no implementation, so we are going to go back to user test. Inside Postgres, let's go back here and attempt to delete the user. So we are going to do error. What is the name of the store? pstore dot delete user by ID. I think this is the correct name that we have in the contract. Sorry, let me be sure. Copy it over. Okay, and this is the user that was created. Where is it? This is the user that was created, and then I put the ID. At this point, if error is not equal to nil, I would say error F, expected nil error during got queue. So, of course, this is going to fail, but that is a form of test-driven development. We just executed it and it failed. So time to go and add it. So we go to the user now. Function queue, Postgres store. We need to take a pointer here. ID int64 and error. Okay, and what do we need here? SQL delete user by ID equal to delete from users where ID is equal to 1. This. So we come here and say, I don't care about the return type. q.db.exec. This is the SQL that we have. Paste it. The ID is just being passed here directly. And if error is not nil, we can return the error actually. We can just return the error itself and it's still valid, but let's keep it this way. Time to run it again. And duplicate key, which is okay. Let's delete everything this time and run it again. All right, that works. Run it one more time with coverage. Continue to work now because when we create a user, we also deleted the user. The same pattern we are unable to cover here because we need to force exec to fail. So we go do that quickly, which is, so we go back to the user test. Let's get the SQL first, sorry. Go to user, get the name of the SQL, come back to the user test, and we can say all of this is equal to this. I'm going to take both with me down here. What do we need? We need to set this SQL to something invalid. And then we call this. Of course, this is not going to work. Even the user ID is no longer valid and all that. And we are going to swap it back when we are done. So of course, we say if error is nay, bring this code error message. Now expected error not to be nay for, yeah, something like this. So we go run it again with coverage. Fantastic. We have 100% coverage so far. I don't know how you're feeling, but for me, this feels really, really, really good. So if you've watched the video this far, please don't stop. Next up is to add another method called FindUserById in order for us to be able to log in the user. So I'm going to come here and do it, but of course we do it test-driven development. So why don't we go to user tests? We can add another test called test find user by email. Right? We have to test find user by email. What do we want to do? Very similar to what we have here. We need a store. We need to create a user. So now that we've created a user, I'm just going to put password here. Just put some other random stuff here. We've created a user. We also need to delete the user at some point. So I'm going to come down here and just do the delete. I won't do anything with the return value. And what we want to do, we want to check if we can find our user by email. So you by email. So user by email, for instance, error is equal to this dot find the user by email, and the email is from here. We just pick something here quickly. So if error is non expected, if error is non expect no error. Expected no error. Got this, right? If this happens, then we are good, honestly. And then I'll just check that if user.email, this user that is not equal to this, that means we got a different user, which shouldn't be, right? But who knows? T.error expect Q got Q. This one, then well, this is what we got. Of course, by running this now, it's going to fail. We can see clearly that this is going to fail because we don't have the method. So let's go and add it right away. I'm going to say function The way to be fast about it is to copy and paste some of the signatures. String domain.user and error. Great, so this is the user we are going to return. Domain.user. We just keep it this way. We need some SQL here. We don't have any select statement, so I'll craft this one. SQL find the user by email. Select ID. We're going to select everything here from users where I like to keep it in capital letter where email is equal to this. I think this is fantastic. And then error is going to look like this actually. So I can copy this and paste it to the SQL. And I need to just pass the email. Let's make sure that what we have, we are getting the ID, name, email, and password. ID, name, email, password, correct. If you want, you can keep the scanning on the straight line, like put new line, but it's okay. Something I want to do here is to work a little bit on the error so that we can use it on the front end. So if error is not new, if the error is, so this is the error, SQL error, no rows, that means the data is not there. I'm going to return name, then I'm going to return domain.error user not found. We don't even have this yet. If not, we return this. After that, it's time to return the user. Now our test is not going to pass because we need to have this defined. In the domain, go there and say errors. So we created a file called errors. Let's define the errors. So errors.new, user not found. This is very fantastic. And when you come to the code, everything looks good. It's time to run the tests with coverage again. Everything pass. Now when you go to users, of course we are failing somehow here. So let's see how we can cover all this. Let me run it one more time. Great. So we need to test for this. I'm going to go back to the user test. Everything is looking good here. How about like this? I'm going to ignore this error. And of course, we are going to put some things in the email, or we can put invalid email here actually. Invalid email. And if error is not nil, sorry, if error is equal to nil, then we know we have a problem. Want error, got nil for invalid email. Okay, let's run this one first. This works, but then if error is not equal to nil and error and errors dot is domain dot okay, then we can say want one domain not found error got something else, got Q, which is error. Let's run it one more time. All right, so we're at 93% coverage. Time to do that same thing now for us to test this path, which is to replace the SQL. So I'll go to the test now. Equal to this, I'm just going to add wood here. Doesn't really matter the name you give to it. I'll keep this one here. This is the SQL, we change it to invalid. Then we call, doesn't even matter. We call this with, we can even call it with the right email, but it doesn't matter. And I'm going to say, if error is near at this point, so we can say want error got near for invalid for MySQL, and we need to set this back to it. Time to run it with coverage again. Great, we have 100% code coverage on that. We also need to be able to find a user by an ID. So I'm going to do almost the same thing. SQL find user by ID. Honestly, there is a way you can do find user by a particular field and just by changing the field, and it's like really easy to do. But we're going to keep it like this. Let me copy and paste this test. Let's copy and paste this test. And then change this to ID. We have everything here, the same thing. We are going to rename this to ID. And then ID. Okay. Yeah, maybe we just check for the ID instead. Okay, find by. So we need to check for the invalid ID. ID is going to be, let's give it, I don't know, if -1 will work, we'll see. Got invalid, want error, got need for invalid ID. And then we should have this as well, actually. So we need to go back to the SQL, copy this, go up here to the code. Just going to put old. Let's go to the bottom. Replace this SQL. And of course, we come here, replace it with the old one. This is the SQL, so ID. Doesn't really matter. We can just replace this. SQL find user by ID and all that. All right. Let's run it. And it failed, which is okay. So let's go and add the method for it to pass. Adding the method is pretty simple. We are going to, so this is it. Currently, we are not using it, so we are going to copy and paste this. And then rename this. ID is going to be int64. The same signature. ID is ID. Right, everything should be fine, like this. What are we missing? Cannot use CreateUser.image variable of type stringers. Okay, let's see where that is coming from. Let's run it one more time. Everything passed. Of course, let's run, we're seeing it with coverage. We have 100% coverage on that. With this information, let's update our contract. So we need to find user by ID in the contract. Here we just put like this. We need to find user by email in the contract. Right, so we have, this is significant, and I think it's time for us to start testing the front end. Front end, that means the API itself that returns the JSON and every other thing. So if you have watched the video to this level, thank you, well done. We are about to enter a more exciting section of the course. In API, I'm going to create a server.go. Let's add the server struct and add a router, which is going to be Gene. I'm using Gene just because I don't want to write a lot of code to deal with JSON. So, but you can use anything you want. The idea is the same. I'm going to import Gene. So this is Gene. Now we go to the terminal and run go mod ID to download Gene. So we have Gene 1.9.1 here. Great, this is our router. And we keep it this simple. We do func, new server. For now, we just keep it simple. Just return this. Of course, the router is still new. What else? Let's add the function to set up the route. So that will return engine.engine. Basically, what I want to do here is if the router is new, I'm going to call another function called setup routes. After that, I return the router. Okay, so what are we doing? Let's go to the Postman. In the Postman, I want to be able to come to users. So this is the path, localhost 8000 /API /v1 /user /create. I want to be able to send that request and then receive some response. Now we currently cannot do that. So the idea is you have the plan. This is, so if you imagine this as a test, it is currently failing. So let's see how we can get that to pass. So I move this one away and then we come back to this. Let's add a way to run this server by saying s, to say run address string, and return an error. Alright, this is nothing but s.router.run. Alright, so we have really simple stuff. This one, we can create a route here. It doesn't return anything. And trust me, there's nothing special about it. We just need to create the Mux, which is the Gene engine. If you are using HTTP Mux, you can do this http.new server Mux. This one can work as well, but we are using Gene, so I need to do something else. I'm going to say gene.default. If you don't want the recovery, the login and all that, you can use gene.new. So if you go here, it has all this middleware registered for you already. But if you don't want them, you can use gene.new, which doesn't have all those things for you. All right, so I have this. I'm going to say s.router equal to the mux. So this helps us set up the router. In order to make this test pass, which is this what we have here, let's minimize, come here and say v1. This is not required, but I like to be a little bit organized. API/v1. This is the v1 route. Then I can say v1.post. So we needed the /user/create, right? For now, I'm going to just put the function in line. I don't like this context, so ctx.json 200. What else can I pass? Any object I want, so I just type OK here. All right, so if I go back to Postman again, we are still not passing. So, and of course, think about it. We created the server struct. We have run here, and we have a way to register the server, but where are we running it? Currently, we are not running it. So let's find a way to do that. In our main.go, inside the API folder, we are going to do something here. Let's create another function called setup. And there's a reason why I wanted to put some argument there, but I'm going to skip it for now. Server. So we can return the server instance or an error. There's a couple of things I can do here. So I'm going to create the server instance, new server. You see, it returns just the server instance, nothing else. And then you go ahead and call setup routes, return the instance, and knee, because we don't have any error to check here. After the connection to the database, or if we want, we can create the server here first. Say setup. What is this saying? Count assignments, because we have a way to check for error as well. If error is not me, we log theta. Here we don't need this anymore. After this, I think I can just come here and say if error is equal to server.run. I'm going to run it on 800. That's what we saw in the browser. If we are unable to start the server, we just log theta. Okay, time to run make run. And let's see, Gene is running on 8000. So we go ahead and click here. Of course, we got the OK, but we're no longer processing any of this input, which is fine. We're about to do that. So congratulations, we have our server running. Next step is to see how we can send requests, bring in the database, and all those things on the front end. So let's go to the server and add something, right? So I'm going to stop the server by pressing Ctrl+C. That stops the server, all right? If you want to clear the screen, you can type clear if you're on the Mac or Linux. If you're on Windows, I think it's CLS. All right. If you go to your server, this is the server. I want to add one more thing, which is the store. And the store is going to come from domain.store. Please don't do this. Don't put an asterisk here. This is an interface, so you don't point to an interface. You should be pointing to a concrete value. For an interface, just signal that you should expect a concrete data that that satisfies this interface. So don't put an asterisk on interfaces. Now we have this, so time for us to create the store. I'm going to say store, the same thing that we have here. And of course, we need to set it. This is one way to set it. Now that it's set up, we know here is no longer going to work because here, where is the store, right? So we need to sort that out as well. Inside the setup, this is why we call it setup. I can do two things. One is I can get the database connection here. I don't need to check for it, and the error for it can go. And then I call connect to DB. I think we have a driver here, fantastic. And pass the driver, and that should give us the connection. But we are also doing it here. That means we need to take this one out. But no, anyhow, let's come here and pass the store. So we need the store. Right now we are using Postgres store, so I can say p store Postgres, this one, and then pass it the DB. This is what we have been doing in the test, so we haven't done anything special or strange. Now we've done that. Since maybe just to be careful, I can do this here. The setup returns an error, so setup, we can say if not me, return me, and the error, right? And we go here, we can delete this one now. Something we are not doing is cleaning up the database. We are currently not closing the database properly, so this is something we can take care of later. Ideally, you want to do when the setup returns, but you can't do that because when the setup returns, we come here and that is going to close our database. Sometimes that is why it's important to do it some here in main, but all right, we'll think about it. Think about it. Okay, so we have this going and we are connected to the database and the setup is good. So let's do make run. We are doing make run now. We are still good. Now that we have access to the store in our server, it's time to write test for the first route, which is what we have here, which is this one. So let's write test for this, test-driven development. I don't know about you, but I think it's cool. If you remember, in order for us to run or do any database operation, we had to set up the database here. And this is important because this package is different from this package. What we are doing inside here is only testing all the codes in this package. Now we are about to test this API package. And this test on the API level, if we have two choices. One is to mock the entire layer. That means we don't make any connection to the database. We we pretend that we're making connection to the database, but instead return data, because don't forget we have an interface as a store. But if I want to do that, it's going to take us more time, and this video will continue to go on almost forever. So we are going to use the real data store. So that means that is going to force us to come here again and do another setup, which is faster compared to writing a mock. So I'm going to come here and say setup underscore test first. Is the spelling correct? No. Setup underscore test. Okay, this is good. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create some variables here called test store, which is going to be domain.store. So this is, we need this to be our test store. After that, we're going to need, in order for us to send HTTP requests and do all that, we're going to need some, we can use, this is not compulsory, but I like to use the test server that Go provided for us. So test server, all right, and the struct, and nothing special. I'm going to say HTTP test.server, just embed it. Next, we can do func new test server HTTP handler, and then we return this test server. We return the test server. We're going to pass it HTTP. So HTTP test new server. You see that the new server takes a handler. That is why we are accepting the handler as an argument here. Okay, this is straightforward. Now, this is the main entry point of our test. So we do that same thing that we did last time, almost the same, main test. We are about to test this API layer now. This is really important just to think about. I'm going to set gene set mode to gene.test mode. That way we don't get these banners in our test output. Now we need a database connection. Connect to DB. I think we have a variable called driver, which is good. If we are unable to connect for any reasons, we can log fatal here. Now that we have the connection, of course, this is where we set this test store to Postgres test store and pass it the DB. This gives us our store. Time to run the code, the test. m.run, always run the test first. When we are done running the test, what, not enough argument, what's going on? I think sometimes maybe I'm passing the wrong thing, yeah. Sorry about that. So sometimes you get, so we are going to do some cleanup here. Right, and after that we do os.exit with the code. We're coming to do some cleanup here. But the good thing is, after here, we have access to look at all the methods in our store. So time to go and do some testing. The first thing I like to test is our user endpoint. So let's create a user.test. We don't even have the user yet, but we are starting from test. You know, that's the idea. So let's say func test CreateUser. This time around, right? I'm just going to run the package just to see what we have. All right, so everything looks good, no errors. That means our test is running, but we are not making any assertion yet, so we're good. What are we sending to the API? a body. I'm going to come to the Postman and copy that JSON. It's exactly what we are sending. We can save ourselves some time by copying it. Just Joseph. Well, it doesn't matter, it can be anything. Now we need this, our server, new server, and our server takes the store, and of course we have set up the store already. So do you see how everything is coming together? Set up our dependencies, and then we're just passing them, into all the places that we need them. Really simple approach, no confusion. We don't have a million third-party libraries to confuse us. We are just doing everything right here in plain Go. All right, so the test server is equal to new test server, and the test server requires a test handler, so HTTP handler, sorry. So we are going to do routes. If you go to this routes method, remember we're returning this here, and this is Gene. It implements that whole HTTP handler interface, so that is exactly why we're able to use it. With this, our test server is now aware of all the routes that we've configured. If we're using HTTP Mux, it's the same way. We should be able to pass the Mux there as well. All right, after this, what else? We can start making HTTP requests. So this is the response, this is a possible error, this is our test server. It comes with a client, and we have a HTTP client. What can you do? You can do HTTP client.do, for instance, and pass in, let's say, pass a request, or this one helps us with like post, and then we can say test server.url. You then add API/v1/user/create, and this is what we want to do. And what are we sending? Application/JSON. All right, let me put them in a different line. And what else? We need to send the body. If you look at the body, is an IO reader. How do you convert a string to an IO reader? It's really simple. You just do string.newReader, and then you pass the body that we have. This is very simple, but this doesn't work all the time. If, for instance, you need to add header and all that, these helper methods won't be enough. So I will show you how we can use our own custom request to pass headers like authorization headers and all that. So if error is not new, it's not new. Of course, test.filter here. And after that, we say if HTTP status okay not equal to what we're receiving from here, and then I can just copy the error check over because we don't have a lot of time to waste on this. So t.errorf error F. So we needed this one, but got this one. All right, time to run this. And it passed. It passed because we have the route registered here. So if I change it to 400 or 400, for instance, and run it, is going to fail. So one status code of 200 got 400. So as you can see, our code is working. Now let's do some refactoring. Of course, we are not going to have this inline function here. So let's start with that. We can say s.create user. So this is going to be the name of our handler. I'm going to run coverage data, no coverage data, so our code can be cleaner. Inside the API folder, I'll create user.go. And then I add a new method to the server struct called CreateUser. It takes a gene.context argument. And that's it. So we can go ahead and do you have the context, you can pull anything you want from it and all that. So there's nothing for us to do at the moment. I'm just going to run it again and no problem. You still have the 200 OK status code. This is good. What next? We need to modify the code in such a way that the test starts failing, right? Or we can adjust the test so we can use the result from the test to work on the code. So maybe we should go to the test first. The first thing I want to do is to convert the test to table-driven approach. That way we can test multiple scenarios without a lot of work. What I'm going to do is to start with the data that we want to have in the table. Here I'm going to say, let's say test cases. What I do basically is, you see, I have this one case that is currently working, then I just loop over that one. I don't start with the table-driven test because sometimes it's confusing. So I always start with something that I understand. So it's not a problem. Do what makes you comfortable, and then you can just update it from there. The code we are expecting, and then the body is going to be string. There's a reason why I'm using string for the body, because I want to be able to change the JSON and doing all these things. So this is going to be the first case. This will be the JSON. I can say this is the best case. Okay, case expected code will be HTTP status okay, and body is what we are sending. Wow. And just do this. I don't know what is failing. I think we need a comma. Great. So we take out this out, and everything looks good at the moment. We need the server. We need the test server here as well. We can call for. Let's loop over the test cases, and can run, do a sub test. Right, great. So this is what we're going to do. Next is to basically convert all these things. So I'm going to take this one in here, right? This body becomes tc.body, and I can, the good thing about running subtests is when you fatal, that very test just goes off. All every other one is, every other cases are able to run. And then we bring this check as well. But of course, we no longer need to do this. We are going to do tc.expected code. It becomes what we are going to do. Right, with this, we can run the code one more time. It's still passing, so let's do some more things. Let's say bad JSON. Bad JSON is JSON that's invalid like this. And we expect a bad request. We expect a bad request for that. You don't need to change anything, just run the test and see the failures. And then it failed. Now that it failed, I want to go here and let's make it pass. So let's create a request object here. Request object will be of type struct. All right, name is going to be string. Email is going to be string, and then password. This is what the user is sending from Postman or whatever. Oh my goodness, what have I done? I need JSON here, JSON tag. We need JSON tag for the password as well. So this is good. Next step is to try to, if we are unable to bind the incoming payload to this request object, then we should return the bad request, right? Gene helps us do that using something called bind JSON. Pass it the reference, right? And with that, we can do just context that we have here, JSON, HTTP bad request. Gene has so this is like a map that you can use to return anything to the browser. And just say error here. And this is it. So let's run the code one more time. And this one passes. Now let's go back there again and add another case. And this is the whole idea of test-driven development, right? So let's say validation error. Basically, we are going to copy this over. But this time around, we are not going to have email and password and name. And we expect a bad request. So let's run it one more time. So it's currently not passing. We go back to user and we say if request.name equal to blank. This is not the best validations on earth, so but it will do. If any of them is blank, we basically do the same thing here. But this one, I'm going to say invalid fields or something like that. And then run it, and then we pass. With that, we can go ahead now and say user, let's construct a user domain. The name is going to be request.name. Email, request.email. You might be wondering, why don't I just use this domain here? Honestly, sometimes you want to separate the domain data from this request data. I like to do that because sometimes I want to apply some validation directly here and do some other thing like a transfer object differently from more of this interface. So it's a choice. You can do that if you want. Password, request.password. And we don't have to care about the hashing because it's being hashed where we are creating it, which I think is fantastic. After this one, we try to create a user. Now it's going to be s.star.createUser. We already have a reference. If this is not, if we fail to create a user for any reasons, this is where we're going to do internal server error. Then I don't know, we can return the error or log the error or something. Normally you want to log an error like this, not returning it. But it's important because there's something we are not doing yet. We need to return to stop the program from executing after an error. We're not doing it here. We're also not doing it here, which is very dangerous. Don't make that mistake. Now that the user have been created, I'm also going to do something else that you might not be happy with, but I'm going to create another struct very similar to this one, but this time around it's a response. And then I'm going to do add an ID int64 JSON like this, but there will be no password. So I can say ID user.id name user.name. Most times you can automate things like this using like a mapper or something, or most people in Go does it manually to keep their code clean. After this, for sure, we can take any of this response then and I'm going to say okay, and I'll just return the user itself, which is the response. Then let's run it and see. Everything should still be fine. One thing we can do is to also run with coverage, but when we do that, it's going to fail now for what I'm about to discuss with you, and we can go next into that. So let's run it and see how it will fail. Got a 500 internal server error, which is because we have the data here in the database, and when I delete it and run the code again, it's going to pass. So we need to find a way to solve that problem. This is the only part that is currently not covered in our test. All right, so what I want to do is to go back to the contract and add something. So I'm going to say delete all users, something like this. It's not going to take anything, just very powerful function. And then we need to implement it. So this time we are going to go into Postgres user tests and then add a test for it quickly. Let me put this here. I'm going to copy and paste this. You see, we are always starting with the test. How do we want it to work? So we have the store, we create a user. I'm going to come here and delete everything. We just created one user. In short, we don't need this. And I'm going to say error equal to pstore.delete all users. This replacement thing that we are doing, let's go ahead and do it actually. Okay, maybe we can come back later to do it in order for us to achieve 100% coverage here, but right now we're going to keep it simple. We delete all users and that will be it. So we go back. In order for it to work, of course, we need to go in here. I can copy this, paste, and error. We need SQL here. SQL delete all users. Something like this. Delete from users. Very dangerous SQL. So careful. Very similar to what we have here. So we copy and paste it. And then let's copy the name of the SQL, bring it here. We don't have any replacement. And that will be it. And then I'm going to run this. This helps us delete everything from there. Now that we have it, I'm going to come inside the API folder, inside setup test, and then we are going to call it here test store delete all users. That way we have like a cleanup program when we are done. You see, it works. Run it again. It works all the time because we are sort of cleaning up after ourselves here. So this is fantastic. If you are still watching the video, thank you. Right, we can now create a user, and that is what I want us to test next. How do we even know if this thing is truly working? Is by saying make run. Even though we have the test, it is also good to test from outside. So we go here now, create account, and then submit. Look at, we have the user. This is why test-driven development is powerful. Most times if all your tests are passing, you are sort of 90% sure so that your code is going to work, especially if you are writing good tests. Let's minimize this, and the next thing we want to do is how to log in. Next thing I'm going to do, we are going to shift focus a little bit from this API package, and this time around we are going to go into create a new package called security, And in that package security, we are going to have a JWT test. All right, so in this JWT test, I want to test a few things, right? First, we want to be able to create a token and we want to be able to validate the token, basic stuff. So I'm going to start by saying function. This is func test JWT token, something like this. I can make it look like this, yes. This package, we don't require any database access or anything, so it's really straightforward. I'm thinking we're going to have a function called new JWT, and then maybe the key, the signing key can go in like this. So it's going to return an instance, which I don't need for this test, and the possible error. Look at how we're creating the idea gradually. And we're going to need the key to be of a certain size. So let's say like 32 or something. So let's put like a short key here. And we can say if error is nil, we can say t.error. We'll say new JWT should return an error when key is too short or something like this. All right, this is enough for us to start implementing something, but we don't currently have this new JWT. So let's go ahead and create that function. I will be using the JWT package called, this is it, and now it's been archived. So if you want, you can use a more updated one. So let's go ahead and go get it first. So this is a version. It's important so that we can have the same thing. All right, now that we have it, I'm going to create the jwt.go here. And let's create a type, JWT token struct. And then we're going to have a key inside. Function new, what is the name of the function actually? This one. New JWT is going to take a key and the string. This one is going to return us an instance of JWT, an error. And this is what we are doing here. We are ensuring that the key is of a certain length. So if the key is too short, if it's less than 32 characters, or this is what we want actually. All right, so after this, just return this. We are still coming to modify this code, but for now, okay. And of course, error will be nil. Let's go here, run the code, and it's passing. All right, next step is to add some methods to this struct, like create token and verify token, something like that. But always try to add some comments. Create new instance of JWT with the key. In our test, I can do func test JWT token testing.t, right? So we need the instance new JWT, an error, new JWT. We need a key, but we don't have a key. So how do we get a key? There are many ways we can make key. I'm going to just keep something here called common. We don't have this yet, but I'm going to do it random string or something like this, 32. We don't have this in common yet, so we'll go back to there and do it. If error is not new, we shouldn't have an error. T.error expected error to be new. Right? I think this is okay. After that, we need a user, even though we only need a user ID for now. I think we can just say ID 1 email test. So we need a user. Thinking about something, so when we want to create, let's say token error, let's say we have the instance of the JWT here, and then we say create token. We give it the user and maybe the time that how long we want the token to be valid. So in this case, 1 minute. And we do this check for the errors. After this, we try to check for more things. Like for example, if the length of token, okay, let's keep it this simple first, because we can even remove this one and like this. And we need to sort this one out first, then we sort this one out. This is how test-driven development work, right? Let's do it. This is coming from common random. So this is common. Let me create a random underscore test. I will go there and copy this is what we want to create, right? Where's random underscore text? Function test, random test T. Let's say this is going to be a random. Let's give it something like this. If len is not equal to 32, expected random to produce a string of len 32, something like this. Not the best of error messages, but we're going to use it anyway. Then we have written the test, but it's not going to work, of course. So let's create the main function this as so n, which is going to be an int, and it returns a string. I think this is how we structured it. If we return something here, the message should have changed. Yes, this is it. Before we do that, I can say const alphabet, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. If you are trying to sing A, B, C, D, a song, I'm listening. Okay, so I'm going to need, what do I do on now? So let's do func init. I want to seed the randomizer rand. What I'm about to do, the ram.seed is deprecated. So look at it here. But I don't have time to research it, so I'm going to take a look at it later. But it's still going to work. So I need a string buffer buffer. Basically, you just put things inside here and then you return the string. So in the end, this is what we are going to return. And yeah, that is it. So this is what we are going to return. Now let's do something in a loop. We need the alphabet, length of the alphabet, nothing. Honestly, this has no impact at all, but it's good to watch. All right, I can do this. Just this is where we need a random actually. Yes, so we have the character that we want. We got randomly and then we write the bytes, which is C. And this should give us the random string. Now it passed. If you want to see, where is it? Random tests. Let's say we want to see the content of this. I can run this as, I put a debugger. So you see, look at the test that it produces. If you can evaluate it as well. And this is it, so it works. Let me turn off the debugger. All right, so that settles it. Next, we go back to the JWT, and we have the way to generate random string. So the next step is to create this create token method. Func, I'm going to bring this like this, J. Takes a user, which is of domain type.user, and then I'm going to just say duration is time.duration. For now, I'm going to return a string and a possible error. Right. What do we need? Let me save something here called time.now. The token is actually really easy to generate because JWT.new with claims. I can say JWT, this is the signing algorithm. Signing method ES256. There's another one that I prefer, HS. You can Google what they do. So if you look at this, we can pass in the claim. Must be something that implements a valid method. Where is the best place to keep something like that? I think it's in the domain. So let's go to domain and put JWT there. Oh, we don't even need to do all that like contracts. So it's, yeah, let's put JWT in there, JWT. And put type, JWT payload struct. What is going to be inside? I'm going to say user ID int64. I'm going to say expired. Let's say expires at or something like this, which is going to be time.duration, and then issue at time.duration. I think something like this is enough for this payload. But if we go back there, the claims, we need to have this method on the claim. This is payload, so JWT payload res, yes. So this is what we want. What do we check for? If the thing has expired, we must check for it here. So after p.expires at, we need to return some error here, which I'm going to return as error expired token. So we're going to create that error shortly. If we don't have a valid user ID, so user ID if it's 0, then definitely didn't pass the right user. Return user not found. We have this error already. Okay, and they can just return me here. Let's create this error quickly. Errors.me token expired. Okay. Why do we have an error here? Because this is time.time. I didn't do it, so I just put this because I don't want big, so I'm going to say IAT and XPAT. Something else, the token itself, the string that we're going to send to the front end. Let's put it as well. This is our JWT. So instead of returning the string, we return domain.jwt payload. And this is now where we are going to have to put the payload. Come down here, construct the payload. User ID of that payload. I say way I can just do like this and fill the field, something like this quickly. I think it's option enter or something. We already have the user passed in here, so I just say user.id expires at will be now, which we have up there, .add the duration. And there is a reason, so I intentionally saved the time.now here instead of calling it twice here, because I think when you call it twice here, you might have a different time, because time is really fast and anything can happen in the processor. All right, so we have this, and we don't need the token now. I'm going to set this after validation, and we pass in this. So you see that it works now. Token string is token.signed string. This is not the right one. I think there's something called this one, signed string. Let me check what it has. So let's check it one more time. So I need the key. We already know the key, so I'm just going to convert the key to bytes. J.key. We have the key. And in case of any error, we return the error. And after that, everything else looks fantastic at this point. So I'm going to say token now. We can put the string here, return the payload, and me. All right, so we go back to JWT, run this. Let's update our, this is the token now, or we can call it payload actually. Now, there are things to test for. So if payload, let's make sure we are setting the right variable. If payload.user_id is not equal to the user, that means something is user ID, it's not, something is wrong. T.error, I'm going to say want, got, we want user.id, we got payload.id, user ID. Okay, what is going on here? It's supposed to be error if Let's run it. Of course, you can check by, let's say if you come here, for instance, since it's an integer, we can add 1 to it, and this test is going to fail. Of course, it has failed. So it is really important to make that test. What else I want to check is if payload dot flen payload dot token equals to 0, t dot error token string is 0, token string len is 0. So that is really good. This is good. How about the timing? If token dot expire, sorry, not token, payload. If payload dot expires at before okay, we want to make sure that it hasn't expired, right? Token should return a token that expires in the future or something. What? Create token. Let me put something like this. Create token should return a token that expires in future. Something like this. Let's run it one more time. We are still passing. And then this is opportunity to also test that we can validate it. And then we close this section of the cost. I think this is really a big section. We have 2 more big sections after the login, then the middleware. I don't care about the return value. So we are going to have the new JWT instance. We are going to have a verified token, payload of token. Add something to it to make it invalid. So if error is name, t.error should return error for invalid token for any reason at all. So let's make an expired token, new JWT, which we have here. Create token for the same user, but this time around we make something that have expired by minute. By prefixing 1 with 0, so it's like -1 times anything is negative, so you're going to get time in the path. After that, we can check if this is valid or not. We don't care about the return value. We want JWT.verify to fail. All right, and then we're going to put the token here. Honestly, if error is nil, then we have a problem. Verified token should return error for expired token. All right, so this is all the checks that we need. We are going to go and implement the this one now. So I'm coming here. Let's copy the name. Func. Put token string, an error, something like this. The test that we have can be better because, for example, if we return a specific error from the domain, we want to check for that specific error, but time is going, so let's focus on what we are doing. There is a function here called in the JWT.pass with claim. If you go into this function, there is this key func that we need. And it has a very simple signature. So let's implement it first. So I'm going to come down here and say JWT token key func. I'm just naming it the same thing. It's not required. JWT.token. And remember, it returns an interface has to match and an error. So I'm going to say okay. This token that we just pass in method to do some conversion here. Work with a lot of JWT packages in Go, and this one is really good. I need the HMark one. If it's not okay, we're going to return name, and I can return domain that invalid token, something like this. We don't have the error yet. If not, we return, let's convert everything to bytes. The key, we need to return the key and name. This one quickly, go add the domain errors. Errors.name, invalid token. All right, let's go back there and finish up what we are doing. Why do we have an error here? Verify token should return, I think we return the same thing. We are saying we are going to return something like this. Where is it? Something like this. Might not be required, but yeah, I think that's why this signature was yelling at us. What is it saying again? Assignment mismatch. Anyhow, we're going to see shortly. Oh, I may definitely did the wrong thing here. Yeah, good. So we are good there. So let's implement the check now. Since we have the key func, our token equals to, now since I have this variable called token, I'm going to name this one token string. Okay, pass with claims, so pass the token string. Let's see if we can pass it the payload and j.keyfunc. Key func. Everything looks good. If error is not me, though I can choose to stop here, but I want to show you some more error handling that I think is really important. This is a token error, JWT.validation error. Okay, so I'm going to say okay, errors.as error, then we pass it the T error. Okay, if okay, and the errors is, let's say the error is domain.l expire token. If this is what we have, return the domain.expired token. Important. If not, we're going to return the and domain.error invalid token. We are very specific about the error message in here so that front end can know the right thing to display. After this, payload, okay, token.claims, so we need to convert it to our awesome payload. If we are unable to do that, we probably can return this invalid token. The string is not going to be part of the payload, so remember, and after the error check, we can come here and do token payload. The token is equal to the string because we have the string just set it in here. And of course, return it. And then time to run the test. Security. So we have all the tests here. It's covered. Let me run with coverage. And we have 74%. Okay, so if you want, we can come and test this, but I'm going to keep it this way so that we can move a little bit more quickly. All right. Something really important is in order for us to use this, we also need to include it in our contract. So I'm going to create another type called JWT. It's going to be an interface. And then we are going to go into the JWT, copy over this signature. So I'm going to paste it here. And then go into JWT again, copy this one, and bring it into the contract. Of course, since we're in the same package, we need to take out the package name to have it. All right, as you can see, we have one implementation, which is this one. Let me go to Tools, Coverage Data, remove coverage data. Right, now that we have it as contract, I think it's important that we go to API server and add it. If you look at what we have here, you see we are able to access properties from the server like methods and all that. So we are accessing store and everything from the server. So I'm going to go into the server and then I will ask the JWT domain.jwt. But the good thing is this is an interface. So you design to an interface, not to concrete type. So this interface allows us to swap things out quickly if we want. Now that we have it on the server, we need a way to set it up as well. So let's go into the server. And this time around, we are going to add one more here, JWT, domain.jwt. And I can say JWT. Of course, this is going to break our code. Already our test is broken here, but it's no problem. Since we are not using the JWT here, we can pass nil to make the test pass. But if we come to main, here is going to break. And if you want, we can just create an instance of it here. So I can say, let's come here, JWT, new JWT error, and I can say new JWT. This is it. It needs a key, but I'm going to have to check for an error first. So after the error check, we pass the instance here, and we're able to pass the instance because this one implements the interface, right? But we want to even do something a little bit further. Instead of returning this concrete type, we can change it now to return domain.jwt. So this is way, way better. All right, now that we are here, we need a key. For now, We are still going to keep the key right here, but I need some random data. So let me use you can use anything to generate your key, but I think I can do OpenSSL rand hex. I think I can do like this, and I get to like a 32 character random string or something. All right, so this works. And we have that should give us JWT pass the key. Of course, I have mentioned this a million times. Do not leave your credentials in your code. You need a configuration management like a .env file. But anyhow, let's continue going. I'm going to run big tests. Let's see what we have. Let's see what is failing, what is passing. Something has just failed. And what is failing? I'm looking for what is currently failing. Okay. Test create user failed. Okay, wasn't okay. So why? Okay, let's run it again. Could be flag tests. All right, yeah. So it passed because I think we had some users in the database and it returned an error. All right. All right, so we need now to use that JWT to log the user in and do all those plenty things. So we're going to go to test. Let's close this one. But before we close it, maybe we can copy some things over. You can copy that over. You can come here and say func test. Maybe we can call it user login or something. All right. So this is what we're going to have for now. We need the JWT, so I'm going to create it. Just a second. I can put the JWT here. Default JWT or something like this. Security. Since we have it in the server, maybe I just put, okay, the server needs it. All right, it's true. Security, this one, and then I have the key already. If error is not me, t.theta error, then we pop it in here, boom, good. So we have a way to do JWT now. All right, this is our test server body. Honestly, I can copy a body from here quickly, or from the Postman. We have it from the Postman. Let's go here, login, then let's copy it. Close this code. Right, we have the body. What next? Let's try to send this to the server. Response error is the test server. Get a client, post something, post it to this URL, which will be, what is the URL here? User/login. So it will be API/v1. Is that what we have? Let's be sure, please. I think we just copy the URL. It's easier here. Paste it here. User/login. And then content type. Let me break this into a different line. Content type. Application JSON. I'm going to break this into a different line as well. Strings.newReader, and I pass it the body. Okay, so this is what we have. We don't expect any error, so we just check if error is not new. We stop the execution right there. If not, we just check for status code, which is if HTTP the status, if okay, not equal to rest.status code t.errorf expect status of which is this one, expected this, and then we got this one. All right, this is fantastic. So we have this. Of course, I should see an error. We're definitely going to see an error of expected status of, this is interesting. It doesn't even make any sense to me. Expected status of E. Is it because of the, let me change it to D and let's see. Yeah, 204. All right, that sounds good. Let's go into our routes, copy and paste this quickly. User login, something. And I'm going to go here, function. So copy this here, paste it to be fast. Copy the context, paste it, and we run it again, and our test is passing. I'm going to automatically convert this test that we have here to table-driven test. So let's say test cases. The name, expected code is int, body that we are sending, and then we are going to check the body that we are receiving. So we need to pass a function testing.t, and we expect the body, the bytes, something like this. I'm going to move this body from here. So this is the OK state. Body is here. Right, this is good. We need the expected code to be HTTP, okay. And we need the check body to be something significant, all right. So what we want to check in the body, we don't have the code yet, but let's do something. The login response will be something like this. We expect token to be returned. So no, that is going to be called token. JSON, let's marshal that into that struct. Marshal. All right. We'll marshal the body into the login response. If this is an error, we can do t.retire in here. Remember, we are in the check body function here for this test case is important. So if the login, the token is blank, that means we didn't get anything. TRF. So want token got empty string. So I don't need anything here. I just can say got empty string, something like this. Now I'm going to have to change this test a little bit. I'm going to keep this one here for now. I'll keep this one. Every other thing is going inside. Let me put this one up for test case range test cases. So let's do it in the subtest. Something not right. I think I'm missing the comma here. What is that? Okay, great. So we are going to move everything we have here into the body of that. This will become tc.body. We have seen that before. Everything else remained the same. We're going to keep everything the same. If we want, we can do this like this, but it's not going to work. But I don't like the fact that this error is shadowing something. There's no problem. This is going to change to tc.expect code. And of course, it has to change here as well, right? And we can keep it this way and run the test to see what happens. Everything is passing, but why? Because we've not executed the check body as well. So what needs to happen now is if we have check body, then we are going to define rest.body.close. This is tip body by slice is equal to io.read all. And that will become from rest.body. If we are unable to read it, we just throw an error here. If not, with tc.checkBody, and then we pass it the body line. Of course, we need to pass the test here. So this is the function, and now it's going to fail because unexpected end of JSON input. So that is failing because we are not returning the right JSON from here. So let's go into login and let's try to fool this thing a little bit. This is okay. I can do gene.h and we are returning token, something like this, and let's see what happens. You see it passed. So, but we are not going to do that. Let's continue. Let's continue. Let's add some more code to test for like very similar to what we have here. In short, let's copy them over. We need the email and password. We are not going to check for this anymore. Now that, let's assume that validations passed. What next? We need to find the user by email, s.store, find the user by email, request email. If error is not, at this moment we can do anything we want. Maybe we want to return the specific error, but hey, user not found or something is fine. I'm going to just keep it as bad request. It can be for however you want it, but at this point, everything should be good. All right. After this, we need to check the password, but I want to run the test first. I'm going to do like this and run the test. Okay. Keep it simple. Always run your test. What is going on? One token got an empty string. Okay, no problems. But we even need more than that to happen. Let's copy. I'm going to copy this body and maybe this one or the name as well. Because the next one doesn't have bad request. This one is going to be bad request because we are going to send an invalid JSON. Something like this as an invalid JSON. Valid JSON. Run it and that passes. You know what? Let's run with coverage and see what we have covered and what we haven't covered. And open users. Okay, validation needs to be covered. So I go into that test. I'm going to copy the body and this one again. Paste it, validation error. Just take out this. Take out this. This should be bad request as well. I'm not checking the body for this one because I don't think it's important here now. So we are at 84%. Finding the user now. Okay. Let's go back to the test. User not found. User not found. Invalid at u.com. Something like this. If there are no mistakes, we should move from that 84% to something higher, 92%. Of course, we are still failing unexpected end of 5, which is okay, but we are at 92%. That means we've covered everything here except this part, which is no problem. But for the login, we've covered everywhere in the login. So the next thing we want to do is to check for password. I can say user here. We have common.check password, which is like this. It takes the plain password and the hashed password. So the plain password is request.password, and the hash password is user.password. If error is not near, we're just going to return something similar like this, but invalid password, valid login. Just message like that is more better. Let's add a test for that quickly. Actually, something is happening here, right? We don't even have the user in the database for the start. Or let's see what we have. This is, yeah, I don't know. Let me check the database and see what we have. We don't even have the user, right? So it's going to fail anyway. This we need to do more. We need to create a user account. So let me create a user account first. User error. I don't care about I care about the error in case. User error. Let's do it down here. Okay, we can do it up there because I need the variable to exist up here. And now that we have the server, we have access to the store. So user error as well store and DeleteUser, domain.user, email, tests at yy.com, something like that. Password is password. Name is OG, something random. If error is not name, g.theta, and then we corrupt. But at this point, actually here need to have this same account. The OK needs to have that same account in order for us to do it. But at the same time, if we want to test for invalid password, let's take this data and we come here, we put it here, invalid password. Right, this is correct, so I'm going to say invalid password here, just to be clear. And then we expect a bad request. If we want, we can add a similar thing here and check for the error messages and all that. But hey, time is going. Run it. Declare not use. Declared not use. Maybe we can ignore it if we don't need it. Let's run it one more time. And then let's see the error message. Okay, still we're having that, but I want to see the coverage. You see, we covered the password side. So now we have what else? So we have the valid password and everything. It's time to generate the token and send to the user. So I'm going to say token or payload, whatever you want to call it, is server.s.jwt. Create this from the user. And the time, I don't know, I can just, this is a demo program, it can be hour. This needs to be the reference because it was a pointer, so it needs to be the reference. Now our test is not going to cover this because it's an edge case, although we have written tests for this, so I don't really care. This is going to be internal server error. Unable to create token for you. Something like this. But after this, I don't know about you, I can't wait. Okay. Token is token. So this is what we are sending. Run the code again, and it passed. Everything passed. Of course, I said this before, we are not going to cover here. And that is the only place we've not covered in the test. And this is fantastic. So we have the test for create account, and then we have for logging in. That means if we go to Postman now, we should be able to log in when we create an account. Let's give that a shot. Make run. I'm going to create a user account. Great. Take the email and the password into the login. I don't think it looks the same. Now we have a token. And let's see what is in the token. It's the user ID and the date stuff. So let me bring over my browser and required only. Paste this. Look at user ID is 49 and all that. We can put the key here. Where is the key to see what we really have? This is the JWT key. Put the key here. You see that signature verified. If I change anything, it's no longer valid. And this is the whole, so this is why the key is very important when it comes to JWT. In short, the key is the most important thing. All right. Next step is to learn how to test middlewares and doing all that. In order for us to test middlewares mostly are used to modify the payload or do authorization, all this sort of stuff. So V1, or let's start with the blog itself. So this is going to be v1.group, and I'm going to say blog. So we can have API/v1/blog. Okay. And then I'm going to say blog.use, let's say s.apply authentication. This is the middleware now. Now, if we try to run the test or do anything, our code is going to fail because we currently do not have this. So I'm going to close this part for now. Go here, create a file called middleware_test. That's where we are going to start. In order to test the middleware, so remember this is the name of our middleware, and I need to come here and create a test for it. So func test this, same signature, nothing special. I'm going to change this A to capital letter. We're doing the same thing. I'm going to go into user test. I will take this, everything that I have here, to bring it to middleware, paste it. Then I'm going to go to that place again. I will grab the user account, bring it to middleware, paste it. All right. So this time around, we are going to need the user when we are creating middleware code and all that. Since we are used to table-driven tests, we are just going to do the whole thing with table-driven test. So test cases, it's a slice of struct that is going to have a name. It's going to have expected code. We could have as well just copy from here like this, right? And add anything else that we need instead of typing it all over again. Do it, I think this time around, just to show you a different style, we can do HTTP response itself here. It's nothing special. Instead of reading it outside, we can do it the reading inside. Okay. So we are going to start with this first test, which is a OK test. What we expect 200 OK. No. HTTP OK. And since we copied this thing, we also copied some things that we don't need. So setup header, I wanted to have a setup header here. So this is going to be func. Take a pointer to requests so we can add the authorization header to it. Setup header, right, like this. This is our JWT. Where is it? We are going to get a payload here. We need this here. JWT payload. I don't really care about the error at this point because We already have, okay, so we have the JWT conf. Everything looks good. So we can create for the user. Remember, we have the user up there, right? 1 minute is more than enough here. Let's say we need this. And then we have the payload. That is how we are going to say header.set authorization bearer token. So when we are sending the request this time, we are going to have this JWT as part of the request, just like we are doing from here. Like we, for example, like we are doing from here. It's really important. This, we don't expect anything more than okay. We just want okay. And if we get okay, we are really, really good. So let's go write the main code. Let me close this guy off a little bit so we can have more space. The server, we know we have access to the router. We're not going to hit the full route. So actually, if we want, since we're using the test server, but if we want, we can do away with this. But anyhow, let's continue. I'm going to say auth, and we don't have the, with this, we are not going to hit this endpoint. We are just going to test it right here. So this is not, let me show you what I'm talking about. This is our route. We are not going to come to this endpoint. We are going to do it here. Yeah, this is better if we, this is only going to test the middleware. We are still going to have a test for this. I just showed you how you can use it here. So we are going to have a dedicated test for this blog endpoint. When you want to create a blog, when you want to fetch a blog. But what we are doing now is going to register the middleware against this endpoint, and then we're testing against it. All right? Good. So if everything is fine, that endpoint should return us the same thing. JSON 200. Honestly, it can be anything. I don't really care. So time to do the main tests. Test cases. All right. And t.run, test cases name. After this, remember when we started, I mentioned that sometimes this is our test server.client. Let's say this is our test server.client. Let's say post, or this won't be enough, because when we need to use the request, we need to construct the request ourselves. So this is that scenario. So I want to show you by saying request is HTTP test new request. What do we need here? We are just going to do a HTTP method get, and then test server.url, sorry, test server.url plus this auth path we are going. So that's really simple. We are not sending anybody, and that is it. That's the request. But don't forget, we need to set up the header by calling tc.setup. So we call this with the request. This is going to help us set up the header. All right, and response error is equal to test server.client.do. We do the request. If we have any error, we just filter here. All right. If I can go into anyhow, like if tc.status code is not equal to what we got is t.rf want got. This is our want. This is what we got. Do we have check body? We need to add a check body. For real. So I'm coming. Yeah, we do have check body here. Okay, great. So if tc.checkBody is not name, we just call tc.checkBody with the response. We need to pass it the test. All right. Of course, this is not going to work. We know why, because we don't have the middleware yet. And time to go and create the middleware. We right click, create middleware. Function, we're going to add it to the server struct. As always, it won't take anything, but it's going to return the handler func from Gene, which is the same thing that we have been passing around, like func, like this. So this is the middleware. So we're going to run it now. Something is still failing. It's saying it wants okay. Now look at the error message we have here that request URL can be set in client request. That error is tricky, but I know how to silence it by going to where did we construct the request. Set header. This is request. I'm just going to set it like this. And we have success. Let's start adding the validation here. Go to the context. We're just going to signal that the authorization header is going to change all the time. So something I want to do here quickly, maybe can be in the middleware as well. It's const authorization authorize. Man, the spelling is so hard. Authorization. And yeah, that's okay for now. Okay, I can have the authorization type bearer. I don't want anything that would make me something wrong with the ID or just me. Okay, so I have these two things in place. CTX, let's set some header key, query authorization. This is going to change. This has nothing to do with the validation. We just want to signal that this authorization can change and all that. Auth header is safe. And this is C get header. We are going to get this header. If this is our first validation, if it's empty, cts.abort status JSON, HTTP status unauthorized, and can just say gin.h. Missing authorization header. What am I missing? Comma, of course. Maybe more than a comma. Status. I need to put JSON here. Okay. We need to return. This is important. Don't forget this. This is the first one. And we should update the test to check for that. All right. So this is not login. Let's go to middleware test. I'm going to go to the middleware, copy this over quickly. No auth header. Here we are not going to do the setup header. We're just going to leave it. I will have a setup header, but I won't do anything inside. And that will be it. For example, if I put this OK, it's going to fail. You see? So we are covering that now. And if we run with coverage, just quickly to see what we are covering or not, middleware, let me close this guy out to show it very well. You see, everything in the middleware so far is covered, right? After this, we need to split this. I'm going to come here now, header parts, string.split. There is a string.field that I have used before, but I'm going to split by space. So what is going to happen is your header is going to look like bearer and then bearer. Can I write the bearer? Bearer and then the token continues like this. So we are splitting it this way. We'll check for this one, then check for this one separately. But we want to make sure that there's two parts. So if len, if it's not equal to 2, that is one thing we want to check. Or if the first one is not equal to bearer, because it's the bearer token that we want, then we can abort again. Unauthorized, invalid token type, something like this. Sometimes you just want to give a generic message and then you do login to put the real message in your log, just for security reasons, but it's okay. And then it's time to write some tests for this. How do we do that? So this is this. We come here and I'm going to add the header for this one. Bearer is going to be invalid. We we are going to add it, but it's not going to be bearer. I want to be, let's say, X invalid or invalid. Something like this. This should trigger that point, and it's unauthorized as well, but just that the message will be different. And I'm going to run with coverage one more time quickly. Go inside the middleware to see everything is covered so far. So let's remove the coverage data. All right, what next? We need a way to check the token itself. So we are here now. So this the token string or token, however we want to call it, is on the second part now. Payload error is our server JWT, and then we verify. Remember, we've tested this verification before. If the error is not near, for sure we know we have invalid token. But we can do some more stuff here. Let me do something a little bit different here. If strings dot contains error expired. If the token has expired, it's the same thing, but the error is, we're just going to put a token expired here, and just close this out. Invalid token or something like this. We need to write tests for both. One is an expired token, another one is a token that is not valid. All right, so how do we test that? I think the best thing to do is to copy this one. Expired token will be this. Minus 1 times this will give us an expired token. That's what we are sending. And this should give us this. Expired token. What is the error that we have here, right? So let me run this with coverage, and let's see what is covered and what is not covered. Yes, we cover that, of course. This is valid token. What will make it invalid is we can modify the token. So I'm going to go back to the test. We probably don't need to call this one here at all. Just put something, say invalid token. And then we run it again with coverage to see. We're making progress, 100% coverage now on this, on the middleware. All right. So next step is we are not done. So we see we have the payload here. That means, remember, the payload comes with the user ID and all that, and you want to check that. So we're going to say we're finding a user s.store.FindUserByID payload.userID. If we can't find the user, honestly, I think it's just an invalid token. Something like this. At this point, we are good. At this point, let me have something here called context user equals context user, something like this. If we need to have, let's test for this quickly. or rather we can complete it. Set context user will be like this. So we look at what we are returning. We are dereferencing it to store the user object directly. After that, we just forward the request to the next handler. So let's try to test it. Invalid user ID. Status unauthorized. The setup header for us will be really interesting. So we are going to have a valid token. But this time around, we do domain.user. This user is not even in the database. Just going to do something like this. Name. Honestly, the name doesn't matter. But just for start test. Okay. And we have a valid time here. Make sure there's one space. Payload.token. I think this should do it. The user ID is different and it's not going to work. So run it with coverage and look at middleware is 100%. Fantastic. So we have tested, crafted our middleware, and everything is now working. And we can give it a shot, let me go to routes. I want to clear this out. So this is our blog. Blog.post. Let's look at what's supposed to be the URL path. Supposed to be blog/create. And I'm just going to put something here for now. Then run make tests to see our test is still passing. Make run. You see, we can have a blog/create, right? For handlers. Fantastic. So I'm going to bring this one back down. So I want us to make run. I want to show that when we go to try and create a blog, invalid token, you see, if we don't send anything at all, missing authorization token. So this is really good. Now the next step for us is to add the blog data layer. So we already have the table in the database. I want us to now add how to create a blog, how to delete a blog, all that queries on the data layer, add testing, and then we can come to the front end and complete it. We're almost done. When we go into the contract, domain contracts, we need about, I think we need about 4 methods. We need to create post, which is very similar to what we have here. Really similar to it. We need the get all user post, which is user ID int64. This is going to return us a slice of posts. What else? We need delete all posts, which I'm having here just for cleanup. We need to delete post by ID. ID in 64 returns an error. So you see, we have all this contract and we need to go and implement them. I'm going to go to store. Here we need a post. I just want to have the signature here. Don't worry. We're not breaking our promises of writing the code first. I want to make sure we have a way to show that we are implementing the contracts. We need the domain. Then we can prefix this with domain. Delete, okay. Return name. Here can be new. Here can just be new. Right, so let's check the contract one more time. Domain, contract, and everything is, we have implementation for everything. Good. The next thing is to basically do the same thing, create a post underscore test. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to take a lot from here, bring it into the post test, paste it. We're definitely not going to need this once. We are going to update this section shortly. In short, we can take it out for now. This is going to be create post. Maybe I'm afraid of using the search and replaced. All right, so of course we don't need this. Post. Let's check inside the post and see user ID, title, body, creator. That we're not going to need that. So let's fill this in. We don't need the ID. Of course, we need the user. So that we post test. We're going to need the user here. Just something here like this. What's the problem? Post test. Body will be test. We don't need this one. ID, user ID. Okay, so we have the user. We are going to create a post for this user. And created posts is going to come from create post. Then we pass the post. If we don't have an ID, then there was a problem. We also need to check the title of what was created against, we need to check the title of what we had against what was created. I think that does it. This is what we had, and this is what was created. I don't really care much about this one. So you have seen how we did the this replacement thing. So I'm not going to do it in this part. You can, after this, we can delete delete post by ID. I'm not going to ignore the error this time. Right, so we have this going on. I expect it to fail now. But why does it fail? It failed because this is not working as it should at the moment. Sorry, this one. New, that's what we have. It shouldn't be possible. Okay. Let's look at the database. So we have this data. I can look for the SQL and bring it in quickly. So this is the SQL, right? And aside from that, since we already gone through this, I'm just going to copy over the code because it's nothing. It's the same thing that we've done, right? So we don't need to waste time redoing everything all over and over again. And then the delete post by ID is very similar thing. I can copy the SQL over as well. So delete from post where ID is equal to this. So we've done this before. Now it's time to run the test. Duplicate key constraint user's email key. So we forgot to delete the user. Key store dot delete. We forgot to delete the user, so we can come here or any of this one. Any of them would work. Delete user by ID. Okay, that works. So in order to avoid the error, we can delete everything from user for now. Let's run it now. Run it again, and it continues to pass. How about coverage? We are not going to do the replacement. You can come and do that to achieve 100% coverage. That is really simple to do. So as you can see, post is at 60%. Things like this, in order to get this part, is that replacement thing that we did in order for you to test this part. So we need to bring the code over for get all user post and all that. So first of all, let's do the delete all posts. Let's start with the delete all posts. Delete all posts. I can add the test here. Function. Let's bring it here. Delete all posts. So how do we do it? We create a post. So we take everything from here down up here like this. Paste it. This is going to give us a post. And at this point, we should have this post. So I can say error is equal to delete all posts. And if error is not me, then we are going to attempt to fetch the post again. I say p posts. I don't actually care about the post. Error is equal to find post by ID, ID. If the error is nil, that means something is wrong. T.error, expected error not to be nil. Yeah, let's see how it goes. I can run this. So delete all posts. We created a user. Created the post for that user. Let me just put some things here. Then delete all posts. It's supposed to be find post. We don't have a find post by ID. Delete posts. Okay. All right, we can still do something. Get user posts. And I'll just say PS. This one shouldn't return an error. Expected error not to be nil. Expect no error here. Something like this for now. If len not equal to 0, expected no post for this user after a call to delete all posts. And then we go ahead and delete that very user. Okay, and then everything looks good. Okay, so let's keep everything the way it is. I'll bring this very short code, just like what we've done before. And so that is basically where it is here. I can put this to delete from posts. Something like this, since we are using this backtick, and keep everything together. All right, so with that, I can delete everything again and run the test multiple times. All right, we passed. And run it one more time. We continue to pass. Fantastic. So I'm going to clear the coverage data, and we're looking really good. So we need the get for our user. So we need this one here. Now, what did I pasted there? Get user posts. So get user posts, a little bit long. Get user posts here. I'm going to remove the coverage data now. This one, the SQL is very simple. Select all. Maybe we just copy and paste it because the fields arrangement has to match. Okay. So we have this one in place. We can go ahead now and test it. Everything we have here is almost there. I'm going to put this here. Okay. put this like this. Right, how do we test? We need the user. We need a user created in the database. We need a post, bunch of posts actually. And just put some random data. I'm not going to check anything there. I'm going to do another one. Short. Let me do it like this. Right, do another post. So we have 2 posts for this user. And I will just say PS error is equal to get all user posts. So if we have any error, for sure we can stop the test at this point. If not, we need to count. I almost typed count PS. If it's not equal to 2, because it has to be 2 exactly, want user post to be 2, got len PS. One thing about this course so far is our error messaging can be better, but trust me, the video is getting really long, and there's no way for us to continue polishing things, but I think you get the raw idea. We've covered a lot of stuff. After this, I'm going to just execute restore.delete all posts. All right, and run it with coverage. Right, and then 79%. If we want to improve, you can do that same thing that we did. I've said it a million times to achieve the 100% coverage, but at this point we are good with this. So the next step is to take this whole idea, go to the front end, and users can create a post and view their post, and then we'll be done. Let's start with the blog part, which is basically a way for us to create blog posts, a way for us to view our blog post, and how we can test all that. I'm going to go ahead and create a blog underscore test. At the moment, we currently have, so this is the route. I'm going to take this out of here shortly, but let's keep it there for now. So we create a test, create blog, and test.t. Fantastic. I want to copy over some of the JWT stuff that we've done before, and they are here. I think it's from the user tests blog. Yeah, it's here. We're able to copy some of I think this will do. Okay, we need a user, so I can copy over that as well. Okay, we need this user to log in, to do everything. Now we have everything needed. How about the JWT itself? So I can say JWT payload. No, I don't care about the error at this point. Okay, we are going to create a token for this user that will be valid for 1 minute. After that, we basically can do test cases. You know what? Let me copy over that one because we've done it a million times. It's the same thing that you've seen. So I put the payload, and then we can go and write the test for this. So that's it. We're going to have the title in the payload and the body, and then let's run it. You know, here you don't need to check your JWT token and all that, because remember you've done that in the middleware. So for sure, we are 100% sure that it's working. So here we're just going to focus on the ability to create a blog post. So let's, for test cases, you've seen this before as well. We're going to run it in the sub test. Right, what do we need? We need to create a request, which I have already. I can bring it over. You've seen it before. We have the body, and then the reason why we are creating a request, you know, because we need to add the header. Remember, we did it just some few moments ago. Everything looks good. And now we can just execute the request using the test server client, and everything looks good. What I also want to do after the test is to delete some of the data that we have, and delete user by, maybe I can delete all users. Delete user by ID. I'll do that. Store, delete all posts. Okay, time to run this one. What is the error message? We are expecting a 201, we got 200 because we have 200 over there, and honestly, we need to change. We need to remove it from there and bring it into the right place. So we are going to go into routes, take this out and replace it with s.createPost. I am going here in the user, copy something like this, pasting it here. If we want the test to pass, we know what to do, right? We can do JSON. We wanted a 201, so this is going to make it pass. But for sure, we know that is not the whole story. And this is something about tests. Test coverages can be deceiving, so you need to really make sure you are testing the right thing. So we have a 100% coverage here now. It's funny, right? Even though we've not tested anything. So I need to create a blog post and do all that. So let's go ahead and do that right away. The first thing I want is to get the user from, let me show you something we did in the middleware. Here we set the user into context. So we need to also grab the user from the context. Auth user, x.getUser, or get auth user, something like this, and then we pass it the context. That we need to create this, I don't even know, maybe we can create it in the middleware, somewhere like here. If you want to write text for this, sure you can do, but it's really simple. Okay, basically writing a test for it is setting something in the context and then attempt to grab it and then you shouldn't have a nil or a panic, because we are going to panic if we can't find the context value at all. This is a standard practice in the Go world. I've seen it. If not this, we are going to panic here. Missing user value in context. It should never happen, since we are setting this here. The only time you are going to get this panic is when you try to use this outside of this middleware, which shouldn't happen. This is not the intention. This is a different way to use the code, and people must respect that, right? And we are going to convert the user that we receive to domain.user. That's it. Okay, everything should be good. Let's go back to blog. So we have the user from context, and the next moment is to create the code for the blog. We have this request, title, body, string, JSON, right? What else? We've done this a million times. Need to do something like this, and probably something like this. So let's bring it over. We are checking. We are going to validate the request.title if it's equal to blank, or request.body. If it's equal to empty string, we're going to return bad request for both. For now, just for the code to pass, I'm going to created, and then I'm going to say user, because I want to go write some tests for this. We are currently now covering this part, so let's open this. We need invalid JSON. Invalid JSON is the simplest thing to create. I'll just say invalid here, and it should be bad request. Let's run it one more time. Our coverage is now 77.8, and we're going to take this valid one, and we say validation error. I'm going to change this to OK or created. Validation error is making this guys empty. We should have this one. We're at 77, so 100%. Great. Now let's quickly go to creating of the post itself. Should be really easy. At this point, I don't really care about the return type. I just need s.store.createPost domain.post. User ID, auth user ID, request, title, body is request.body. Okay. If we get any error, it's most likely 500 internal server error, and you won't be able to test this the way the code is currently structured. I'm going to talk to you soon on how you can test this, and I'll probably do a follow-up video on how to get like 100% coverage here. And after that, here is definitely error creating post. And I can say error.error, something like this. At the moment, everything is good. Error is blank and the message is post created. So this gives us, this is everything for this endpoint. We can now create a post. How about viewing users posts? So we go back there quickly and we can add another test on how to view users posts. Okay, blog tests. I'm going to fold this function like this. All right, so this is what we are going to test, get all users posts. We need, let me bring the JWT, all those things that we need. We need the token. We need the token like this. All right. Then we are going to create some posts. So let me copy those ones over. Just creating like random posts, about 2 of them. If we want, we can use it for each here, right? Like for, let's say for I equal to 0, I less than, let's say 3, I plus plus, something like this. Okay, and this gives us about 3 posts. I think 2 is enough. We're using our random generator, and then we create. So I'm going to bring over the code that we use from that point. So we are going to hit this endpoint block list to try and get the post, and then we expect to have a status of OK and everything. So at this point, we are going to run the test to see what happens. But then we're going to have another problem because we are not deleting the post, and here we should have a lot of posts now in the table. You see we have 2. But a way to solve this problem is actually to go here and do the same thing that we are doing here. Instead of delete all users, you can do test.delete all posts. Okay, it's no problem. So I can do this. But so we want status of 200 and we got 404, which is okay. So let's go solve that problem first by going to routes, and I can come here and say blog/list. So list user post, something like this. We can come here. For real, it is faster to type, to copy and paste, sorry, all these things. And then we run it one more time. One status code of 200 got 44. Okay. Let's see why. Go to our test, blog, list. Isn't that what we have? Oh, it's supposed to be a get. All right, great, we have it. But I want to do something. We need this time around, I'm not going to leave the test just by checking the status code. So I want to go here in the block test. Let's say var post response will be struct. We're going to have a post domain.post and like this. Maybe we do it like this. Okay. This is what I meant to do. Okay. Now, response body slides or something, body bytes. And we're going to do IO reader response.body. I can define the closing of the body here, response.body.close. If we get any error here, we can exit the test. So this is good. If error, let's marshal. We need this one, and then we need to marshal to this post response that we have. These are classic stuff. Okay, in case we run into any issue, we do the same thing. Since we've created two posts here for this user that we are logging as, and this is how we identify the user via the token inside the middleware. We are setting the user. So since we are doing that, we expect that if len post response.post, if it's not equal to 2, for sure, expected to post for this user got D. Need to copy this and paste it here. And of course, error F. Okay. And it's going to fail unexpected end of JSON. Because what we have here is not what we are returning. So let's go there. Log. We haven't returned anything. So let's work on this quickly. We need a user. This is going to be the simplest thing to write. We need the post. Error is going to be server store. Get all user posts. And then this, if we run into any issue, I'm going to just put this. Else, we're going to do something here. Okay. We need the posts to be pointing to this. Sorry, that arrow has to be there. Okay, let's run it and see. Fantastic. Wow. I don't know about you, but this has been a really, 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 really long journey. What is happening now is like leftover data in the table, blog test. So let's see. I can change this a little bit to common.random. Right, and we run it. Where else do we have that? common.random. All right, everything looks good. So I want to clear this, stop the server. Let me go here, show coverage data, clean it out. To expand the terminal a little bit, make test. One thing that like really important that I think we should talk about is this flaky test or this random behavior that you have from your test, that sometimes you have leftover data and all that. So if you are working on a big project, sometimes you are going to run into this issue where some of the tests are deleting data that is needed by other tests, and things like that can be really annoying. I have a solution for it, and what I have been able to do is to treat every package like a different program, and they know how to create their own database, do their own migration, and do all that. So tests that have been executed in one package does not affect the tests that have been executed in another package. That is it. So time to run, make, run, and Postman. I don't think we have it in the database, so this is good. Login. We are able to log in. Create post. Okay, this looks good. We created a post. Just put some random data, more. Very fast API is 24 milliseconds. Trust me, Go is lovely. And that's it. So in order to list our post, these are all the posts. So I don't know about you, but this has been like really awesome, and I enjoyed recording this video, and I hope you are going to enjoy watching it as well. If you have questions, please always leave a comment. I'm going to put a link to the repository, and then you can use it. Do anything you want to do with the code. The most important thing is you have the Docker running, connect to your database. I have the SQL here for you to import and play with it. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you have watched the video till the end, please, you can send me email, ask me for anything, and I will try, like, ask me for any course, or even if you want to have like an unblocking session with me or anything, please do let me know. I'm here. I can support you. Especially if you are just starting out, I don't mind to support you. So thank you so much, and do have a wonderful day or night ahead. Bye for now.